Do you know why you want to be a tank right now in BFA? Because everyone is looking for a tank right now. And you want to be a good tank. A good Prot Paladin tank. That feels like Captain America doing shit like this. Well, my friend, Prot Paladins are super fun to play. And if you want to get good, welcome to the Prot Paladin guide, where you will learn about talents, gear, rotation, stats, and a lot of neat tips and tricks to get you started on the right track. It's really important for you to understand a couple of passives and the mastery for Prot Paladins in order to play it properly, but don't worry, you'll learn all about that in the rotation part. For now though, let's take a look at the talents. As always, when we do our guides, we get into a lot of research on logs, discords, previous guides and testing on top of playing the hell out of these specs. All this with the sole purpose of creating a solid yet easy to pick guide for you, and as you get more experience, we can go into more advanced stuff in the comments. For now though, we're taking the basics safe route. So, for the first row, the safest pick is Holy Shield, as it will add a 15% chance for you to block, and it will also enable you to block spells on top of adding a bit of holy damage on successful blocks to your attackers. It works great for both rating and Mythic Plus, although a lot of high-end Prot Paladins go for Blessed Hammer in Battle for the Czar lore, which is a good option, especially when considering that the majority of the DPS you'll be taking is pure auto attacks, and it also saves you the melee rage requirement on top of getting more frequent Grand Crusader procs. For starters though, keep Holy Shield, and when you have a great healer to work with, try out Blessed Hammer. On the second row, for both Raids and Mythic Plus, your go-to talent will be Crusader's Judgment, as it will give you 2 charges of Judgment, which will increase your recharge speed for Shield of Righteous, this being your main mitigation ability, adding to this the 15% chance to get a fresh new Judgment charge after using Shield of the Righteous. We will talk more about these abilities in the rotation part, don't worry, it'll all be clear and simple. Next row is your crowd control, and although Repentance has its uses, your best bet would be on Blinding Light, because it's an emergence in AoE, CC and interrupt for abilities like Bone Shields from Reanimated Guardians in the Underworld, where you can interrupt and after that go ahead and stun. The 1.5 minute cooldown isn't a big issue, as you'll have the blind available on every 4 to 5 mob pool. For the 60 tier, we have 2 viable options in Cavalier and Blessing of Spell Warding. It really boils down to the question, do you need immunity to spells or not? In Conclave, for example, if you go with Spell Warding, you can stay outside of Paku's Wrath and bait frog jumps. You can also use Spell Warding to clear a big portion of the shrooms in Underworld at the Spore Caller Xantia boss. But if you cannot be bothered, Cavalier will help you transition very smoothly when tank swapping, as Battle for the Czar lore does have a lot of that happening. Also, Spell Warding works great in the new Crucible raid and in dungeons such as Temple of Citralis or Shrine of the Storm, so choose accordingly to the content you're playing. Next row is sometimes a bit controversial, so let's put it like this. If you're just picking up Prot Paladin and never played it, or you plan to do a lot of bugs, the safest option will be Hand of the Protector, as on top of reducing the cooldown of the ability, it will also serve you either as a huge shield for yourself or a huge shield for a party member, adding points to the utility department. However, most Prot Paladins go for Final Stand, and this is an amazing ability to have, unique among tanks, as it will grant you the immunity from Divine Shield and also throw a massive 15-yard taunt, giving your healers an 8-second window to breathe and top everybody up. This is absolutely amazing for reaping, as you'll be able to pull the whole pack without having any stacks on you. When I play with my trusted friends, I always take Final Stand. When I'm pucking, I always take Hand of the Protector. The level 90 row brings us 2 viable options in Judgment of Light and Consecrated Ground. Judgment of Light is usually the go-to talent for raiding, as it delivers a small but consistent heal to all attackers hitting your judged target. You want to take Consecrated Ground though for the more safer option, as this will raise up your uptime due to its 50% slow and 50-yard radius increase. Remember that standing inside of Consecration provides you with damage reduction based on your mastery, and this will work well in raids but will be mandatory in Mythic Plus dungeons. Last row is again another controversial one, as a lot of the information is split. If you look at Battle for the Czar lore logs, 98% of Prot Paladins go for Seraphim paired up with the level 1 Talent Blessed Hammer to increase damage output, while most experienced Prot Paladins recommend Righteous Protector for raiding. I personally feel much safer with Last Defender in both scenarios, so keeping in mind that this is a basics guide and you want to have the safest route, let's just put it like this. Righteous Protector is the best option here for raiding, as it will help you get more Hand of Protector heals and more frequent Avenging Rats. Last Defender should be the best option for when going Mythic Plus, because it will provide damage reduction based on the mobs that you get in your 8-yard range. I suggest you play with both a little bit and see what best fits you. When talking stats, there's really no good option to sim for tanking. I mean, you could sim for DPS, but this is a basics guide, so you will want to learn first how to stay alive like the goddamn Bee Gees. As opposed to Red Paladin, you do have a stat priority, at least defensive-wise. Of course, strength, armor, stamina will be at the top, but all tank gear has plenty of those based on the item level, so you want to prioritize your secondaries this way. Haste is the most important, followed closely by Mastery. Since Shield of the Righteous is your main damage mitigation ability, you want to have as much uptime for it as possible, and Haste plays a big role for that, on top of the obvious GCD reduction and other abilities cooldowns reduction. Mastery, on the other hand, will reduce the damage you take inside of Consecration. It will also boost your chance to block melee attacks, and it will increase your attack power as well. So both of these are really important. After these comes Versatility, which should come to no one's surprise, as among all else, it provides damage reduction. Last on the priority will be Crit. For trinkets, there are a lot of options you can go for, but for the purpose of keeping it sweet and simple, you'll look at 4 of the best ones. Just Howler from Toll the Gore will help you in a lot of scenarios, but especially in your mythic dungeons, as it provides a massive boost to your versatility and a little bit for your party as well. Razan's Gleaming Eye from Ataldazar is a trinket that works perfect for both raids and Mythic Plus. It provides a decent flat strength stat, which helps with your Shield of Righteous armor increase, but more than that, it will grant you proc-based haste, which will again help you with Shield of Righteous, increasing its uptime now. A great raiding trinket, which can also work good in dungeons, is the Diamond Lace Refracting Prism, which again will give a nice strength stat and will passively grant you a stackable absorb shield once every 10 seconds. This one drops from Opulence, so go get it! Lastly, I had to put on the list a trinket from the new Crucible raid, as it appears to be used more and more by high-end Prot Paladins in both raids and Mythic dungeons, at least judging from the latest logs. Talking about the Idol of Indiscriminate Consumption, which will do AoE damage to your allies and heal you for 250% of the damage dealt. Seems like a really powerful heal, and it can work great when your Light of the Protector is on cooldown, but of course your party needs to be aware of it, especially your healer. Now let's move to Azurite traits, kicking it off with one of the most important you can get and which you should stack for 2, even 3 slots. Inspiring Vanguard is the name, and it will raise the Grand Crusader passive proc chance from 50% to 20%. We will talk more about this passive in the rotation section. Take note that only the strength increase will stack. Another great trait that you can also get for 2 or 3 slots is Bulwark of Light, which will add a lot to your survivability due to its stackable damage absorption when using Avenger's Shield. Speaking of Captain America, you want one trait to be added in your list, and that is Soaring Shield. It's a great trait for Mythic dungeons and AoE tanking in general, as it will enable your Avenger's Shield to hit 4 enemies instead of 3, and it will provide you with a decent amount of mastery for every enemy hit. When none of these are available, Treacherous Covenant is always a good pick, and for inner rings, look for a Blade of Shield for the armor increase and Overwhelming Power for the haste buff, which we already talked about this. We need that haste, yo. For tanking, truth be told, there isn't any real rotation, but rather a priority list for you to be aware of when reacting to certain situations or mechanics. On top of this, as Prot Paladins, you get an array of defensive cooldowns that can be used in high-risk situations. You'll learn when it's best to use them, but first, you have to understand the Prot Paladin Mastery and the Grand Crusader passive. So, Divine Bulwark is your mastery, and it will increase your chance to block attacks, it will increase your attack power, and it will reduce the damage you take inside of your consecration. Thus, it's always important to have consecration down wherever you decide to pull and tank something. Grand Crusader is your most important passive, and it works like this. When you avoid a melee attack or use Hammer of Righteous, you have a 15% chance to reset the cooldown of Avenger's Shield. This is why the Inspiring Vanguard Azurite trait is so good, because it synergizes super well with this passive. Shield of the Righteous is your main mitigation ability, and it has 3 charges. It provides a 4.5 second armor increase based on your strength. Having an 18-second recharge time, the idea is not to spam this one, but rather use it when you know a bit more damage is coming your way, such as when pulling 4 to 5 mobs, or an ability like Tantrum from Gronk. When shit really hits the fan and you are out of shield charges, Guardian of Ancient Kings can save your sorry ass, as it will provide a 50% damage reduction for 8 seconds. Don't be afraid to use this ability once every big pull if the situation requires it. The 5-minute cooldown should be fine in hierarchies, or you can maybe use it for boss fights. The same thing applies, 5 minutes is nothing, use it if it's required. On the other hand, when you know you will have to face a deadly mechanic that has a real chance to kill you, use Ardent Defender, as on top of a 20% damage reduction, it will also cause the first killing blow against you to heal you for up to 12% of your maximum health, saving your healers from panicking. It's on a 2-minute cooldown, so you can basically run this as a rotational cooldown. There is also Divine Shield. You know, of course, this will make you immune to everything for 8 seconds, but as soon as you pop it, you lose all your threat immediately, so unless you're running with the final stand talent, there isn't really a solid enough reason to use it. However, exceptions make life fun, so if you do decide to use Bubble, please remember to first taunt your target and then cancel your Divine Shield after 3 seconds. Basically, keep the bubble for the duration of your taunt, should be enough. Avenging Wrath is great for DPS, but it also has its defensive uses, as after popping it, your first Light of the Protector will be a guaranteed crit, healing you or an ally for almost the entire HP. And on top of the 20% damage and heal increase, it provides a 20% crit chance, which will affect your Judgment crits too, scoring you faster Shield of Righteous, because normal Judgment hits reduce the cooldown for your shield by 2 seconds and critical Judgment reduce it by 4 seconds. Knowing all of this, depending on the situation and availability of your abilities, the priority is this. Judgment first, to always add to the Shield of Righteous cooldown reduction. Then Consecration to play on your mastery and add the damage reduction. Avenger's Shield, and lastly, your filler, Hammer of Righteous. You kind of always want to use Avenger's Shield before Shield of the Righteous because of the 20% armor and damage increase you get for Shield of Righteous after throwing Avenger's Shield. Enchants for Prot Paladins are fairly straightforward, as you will go for the main secondary stat to pump, and that is Haste. That being said, quick navigation for your weapon and Pact of Haste for rings is the ideal setup, and they shouldn't be that expensive either. Same thing goes for gems. Quick Owl's Eye will be your go-to, as again, Haste is one of your best friends for all that Shield of the Righteous uptime, and hey, everybody loves their abilities to be available on a faster pace. For flasks and potions, there is a bit of a debate on whether to use a stamina flask or a strength flask, but all sources tend to indicate that you're better off with Flask of the Undertow and Battle Potion of Strength, as strength provides a much more solid benefit for your tankiness, as we covered previously. And on that note, we use the same philosophy when we sit down to eat, Feast being your best bet for extra strength, and if that is not possible due to gold constraints, go get yourself some Borealis blood sausage from the auction house. Tanking is fun and in very high demand right now, so if you want to diversify, go ahead and check out our Prot Warrior guide, so you can thunderclap your way into raids and mythic pluses. We salute our Patreons for all of their love and support, and if you want to join the team that way, Patreon link is in the description. Also, I want to give a huge shout out to Luminara and Panthea from the Hammer of Wrath Discord, especially Panthea, who helped out a lot with the guide. And if there's one thing I would recommend you do is go to his website tagnotes.com, where you have excellent encounter guides for all of the tank specs. And be sure to visit the Hammer of Wrath Discord for much more information and proper advice from experienced Prot Paladins such as the ones mentioned above. Cheers for watching the video, I'll catch you next time.